Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pumpkin Emoji. Oh God. Okay, that's a little bit of feedback in the back, but that's fine. Welcome to our second episode. I'm joined once again by the fabulous and utterly handsome Jeff Koval.
Any
Jeff,
way to just throw it to me? Yes,
that's your cue.
we are
That's your
here
cue.
as on Pumpkin Emoji and dealing with some technical difficulties, and we are joined by Michael, who does a lot. They have a shit ton of things out there, and I think most popular is Soursalt, but I know, I'm not even joking. There's dozens of projects that
Yes.
you have worked on.
Too many. Too many.
Too many.
Yeah.
Well, I
At
was
this
going to
point,
say, we just started at 8 p.m. and yeah, I took my sweet time getting here. But I was going to say, if we had like a little green room moment, Michael, I don't think you and I have spoken voice to voice in like literal years at this point.
it's. I think the last time was like early 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
And leaping off of like last week when we were talking with Kay, like a lot of friendships and creative relationships were started for better or worse from the whole the Slenderverse and all the projects that spawned from that. So at least, I mean, I know between me and Rod and me and Michael, the three of us, that's exactly how we've crossed paths so many years ago. And we're talking about different stuff now, but there's one piece of positivity that came out of that whole hydra of mess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The funny thing about both of you, like both you and Mike, Jeff, is that I was a fan of both of you guys' work, and I met you more directly, Jeff, but with Mike it was a very chance encounter. We were talking at some Discord. I don't remember which one it was, and
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh man, like you made Monarchs 52. I love that stuff." And I'm like, "Wait, didn't
I
you make
got so hyped.
didn't you make Soursalt?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Dude, I love your work."
You got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Pretty much. And
No,
we became friends like instantly. Like and
It
I
was instantly as like I can't remember when I saw the first episode of M52. I was scrolling around and just like clicking on random posts from people that were posting their series, and I think it was the garage video.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I think that was the first one because it blew my mind. I was like, uh, I was watching it and just trying to comprehend that this was something somebody had gone on there and posted, and it wasn't just like a cool fight scene or whatever. And I got like super hyped, and then I saw you talking in the Discord later, and it's just I don't know, friendship.
and that's something I've always appreciated from you, that I mean, you're almost like an encyclopedia about all these different projects that are going on out there,
Yes,
and whether
absolutely.
it's just because that that's what you're interested in, or just like the network of friends you built up. Like I always, I mean, we can get into this later on. Likewise, with you producing so much, that's something that I've really always admired. Is like, for better or worse, you always have a bunch of plates up in the air, and on the same
Yeah,
side of that, you always have your finger on the pulse of all these smaller projects that are coming out and things that randomly blow up. Like I know there's the text chat we're in. You're raving over something. I'm like, what the hell is this? It's like, check it out. It's 500,000 viewers or something. Like, how the hell have I
yeah,
never heard of this? And you were there on the ground floor.
Yeah, I feel like Mike has this, and I'm very honored to know that like he likes my stuff because he has a radar for good shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh man, he likes my stuff, and he also like raves constantly about really good shit.
I
So
wonder if they're talking about me. No,
uh,
I
that's excellent though.
I just look at links. Like when people post something, I'll usually, if it looks kind of interesting, like the thumbnail grabs me immediately, I'll just take a link of it, put it in a notepad, and save it for later. When I'm bored one day, I'll pull up the notepad and there's like 50, 60 videos on there, and I'll just start watching them.
That's probably a better productive use of my time, because if I'm ever in the mood for this kind of thing, it like gets added to
Mm.
like a never-ending to-do list of things to catch up on, or stories to read, and then 2 months pass and you still have a list of stories to read and things to catch up on, and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get this started. I'm going to transition us to Resident Evil 2 remake. That's
yeah.
I'm going to be playing that in the background. Let me stream that for y'all in the Discord, so y'all can see what I'm doing.
We're just gonna have like a handful of forgotten group chats by the time this is all said and done.
Yeah. I just want to take a second and say, look, I'm very proud of this. I did Claire Hardcore in less than an hour, and I got an S S
good
plus.
Lord.
So
God.
yeah. Let's do just a very simple run, assisted. I don't want to have to stress about this. I stressed enough about Amnesia last time.
Happened so hard at that.
Yes, I was stressing so much at the end that the white mouth boy really had me by the balls.
It got kind of ugly.
It did. We were sacrificing people to the pumpkin god, and I was being sacrificed.
Kay kind of picked up the slack, and she was just going on her tangent. But I checked back to the game screen, and I see you like trapped in a corner in the room with the monster breaking down the door. I'm like, all right, well,
Absolutely.
The focus isn't the game going on, but
Agreed.
Our
Exactly.
brother's struggling right now.
Yeah, I don't want to have to focus too much, so I'm just doing an assisted run, and I know this game very well. So, let's get started with a few couple of things for those here who have not watched Soursalt. One thing that I will say is that there should be some pretty heavy spoilers as we talk about the show. So if you haven't seen Soursalt, I would recommend that you do. Yeah, okay.
I think for you pretending we're the potentially, ignorant stranger who's never heard of it but sounds very interesting. I know the branding is brilliant. It's a very simple, straightforward name. Is this something that you could sit down and either follow one YouTube channel or an easy wiki, or I know some of these projects get very convoluted.
It's definitely not sit down and just watch Soursalt, unfortunately. But that was one of the big reasons that I wanted to do it, was when I started back in like 2011, make these stories that didn't last too long but could tell a quick, linear, like Slenderverse story. Like the way we all wanted Everyman Hybrid or Marble Hornets to end before it did, But no, not with Soursalt.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how do I just make it weird? And good lord, spoiling the ending isn't even that big of a deal in this case, because like I feel like the enjoyment from Soursalt comes from just seeing what happens rather than what ends up happening.
Yes, absolutely. The journey in Soursalt, in my opinion, is the most fun part of the entire show. It's not even like where we get to; it's just how we're getting there. Oh, we got a follower.
I can't see. Somehow I was not following you. It doesn't make sense. We literally discussed this like 2 months ago. Anyway.
Look, I'll follow you when I can get into my Twitch.
A fit of jealousy, I unfollowed you when you were doing some steampunk roleplay or something.
Okay. So, now that we got that out of the way, how about we start with a very simple question. When I say simple, it's not
lyingly.
I'm sorry. Well, it's
no
simple.
It's simple with these types of projects.
Right. I mean, it's not complicated. It's a complex question, but it's not complicated.
Let's go for it.
The question I have for you, Mike, is how difficult is it in a show like Soursalt that that brings together this idea of a tulpa, this sort of Pennywise tulpa situation. How difficult is it for you as the creator, or was it for you as the creator, to toe the line between reality and fiction? The hauntings of Hushu 2 Road and how you made Soursalt.
That's such an intense question to start off with, because like it was really difficult. The majority of Soursalt was based on a series of nightmares that I had from being at Hushatu. So one of the big things I wanted to do, since I can't just straight up tell the story to viewers, that would be weird. I wanted to try to break all of it down because, like, it was a strange event that happened. I can't even trust the memory that I have of it. So it's just this weird thing that stuck with me, and then I started having nightmares about it. And eventually I was like, I'm going to start writing these nightmares down, and then I'll merge it with whatever I remember my experience was, and we'll see what kind of story I get. And like, good God. Wow, yeah, I came up with like...
Getting a little mic feedback, it sounds like.
From who? From me?
Oh, is that not? No, that might be on my end. Sorry, Michael, continue. I'll troubleshoot what's going on with me. I hear Mike kind of breaking up, but oops. My bad. I just want to make sure the stream is going on. Keep going.
All right, well, I don't know. I'd have these like creepy creatures show up in my nightmares, and one of the big ones that actually I recreated was the Aztabisu, and it was based on this fear that I had of... I can't even remember what it's called. It's this cryptid in Louisiana, and it's basically like the Rake.
Right.
I think the Collie Man or something.
So Louisiana, to clear up for people that don't know you, Louisiana is where you live and where you shot the majority, if not all, of Soursalt.
Yeah, over near like 10 minutes from my house. Then there was another park, and then near New Orleans. Nice, spooky Louisiana forests was the goal.
Fair enough.
And I think one of the things was like these places that I'd visit, not even to film, just to hang out and like check out and ghost hunt. They'd show up in these reoccurring nightmares, and I figured I could tell the story and see how close to what I've actually experienced I can get.
Okay.
Ultimately, if you watch Soursalt, it's like that's not it. It's not based on a true story, but it's based on like actual dreams and strange encounters I had in those dreams. Like, I think the biggest one was I think, in my opinion, the worst part of Soursalt, the Burnham Woods footage. Because it was like a normal dream, just this regular, I was hanging with friends talking in the woods, and I'd say like 20 minutes, give or take, before I woke up, it just devolved into this disgusting horror movie. Like, I woke up sweating and just went, I have to immediately make this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but good lord. I guess, for the most part, the story itself, I can say, is pretty much, I sat down and was like, how do I tell a story while trying to keep with this realistic experience that I had? And I guess by the end of it, I sort of blended it with just crazy fiction and edit ideas that I wanted to have.
Right. So how much... So you mentioned this idea of not being able to trust your own memories and your own experiences. Where did that specific concept originate from?
So the concept is in the belief that I shouldn't trust it, all that.
Right, yes.
It honestly stems from myself. Actually, in the chat, I believe right now, Velvet Eye Gaming is my buddy Rowan, and they were actually down here for the Hushatu event. That's actually I was in their car, I was driving their truck down the road when it happened. And to summarize a really long and just creepypasta sounding story, we went on this haunted road because there was a creepy bus. My friend Zane and I had found it once. It was just this weird bus, and his friends said that they heard whispers and noises coming from that bus one day. Granted, they were smoking and walking the trail, so like obviously, I just wanted to see creepy cool bus.
Not necessarily 100%
Yeah,
straightforward
an
retelling.
unreliable narrator. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm just gonna ignore that experience and wonder, are they lying? Are they telling the truth? I mean, they were stoned.
Right.
We're gonna go anyway. So I brought Rowan down there, and I'm driving in their like old ass truck that I've never driven before, and it starts storming. And granted, this storm ended up being historical for Louisiana. Like it's going down in the history books. So many places flooded.
Right.
And that's where this experience happened. We're driving down the road in this historic storm that is just starting up. Things are starting to flood, and I get freaked out because the road in front of me is starting to go underwater. And in the place we were at, which is Hushatu, it's a swamp. There are alligators, there are snakes, things that like I don't want to have to deal with. So I veer down this one road, which is called Horseshoe. The GPS that I was using at the time, and Rowan was looking at it, it was supposed to just be straight and then kind of loops around like a horseshoe.
Right.
So I take that road to try to get on an off-road that's supposed to lead us back to the main one so we don't have to deal with any of the flooding. And as far as I remember, that straight road was not what it was supposed to be. Like, realistically, we shouldn't have been able to take this right turn that showed up at one point. We took a right turn and ended up farther back than we were without the road ever curving. Which, like, that's impossible geometry.
Right.
We even tried...
No through road going on there.
We got no through road, and I was so mad. Because it just didn't make sense, and it wasn't something that I could just go and tell people. I can't be like, hey, I was on essentially no through road. But like that straight up happened, and I'll go to my grave saying that event happened, and good thing Velvet Eye Gaming can sort of confirm it. But to this day, our memories of exactly what happened, it's just all been different. We all have the basic story of what we did, but there are things that each one of us that were in the car remember that others don't quite remember, but it still fits in, and that was a huge inspiration for Soursalt. Because
go on.
I was like for example, Rowan remembers I think a bridge that we had to cross over. The bridge. But then the other person in the car remembered the bridge. And we were filming at this point because it was storming, it was creepy, and I was like, look, I can use this for an upcoming series. The footage on the camera does not match what we all remember happened.
Oh jeez.
So it's just this crazy event, and I can't trust my memory as to what actually happened, because the video footage shows us at least when we got there, but then it stopped recording, and the next time it was actually recording was when we were leaving. So we got Blair Witched. And I think at that point, it was like, I can't trust what just happened. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where I just have this sudden clarity. Oh, this is exactly how it went down. This is how it actually happened, or how it possibly could have happened. And that was just my biggest inspiration into Soursalt, was I can play around with that. Because I remember the video footage being different than what we filmed. So what if in this series, this dude is not sure if he's dreaming, if he's awake, and the video footage doesn't help. Because it'll show both things from the dream and outside of the dream.
I was gonna say, it's like in that sort of circumstance, you wish, beyond anything, that you have a witness there with you, somebody to back you up. But in this sort of, story, this sort of real life happening, it's like that's almost more of a liability than anything, because now it throws everything into doubt.
Exactly.
I know for me, that's existential terror right there. That's like, did I go to Dunkin' Donuts this morning? I don't know.
Exactly.
I would say that's definitely the scariest moment of my entire life.
Right.
And it is going to stick with me. I have been back to that road countless times, and almost every time something horrifying has happened. I actually, realism-wise, I tried to keep a log of it and do like a documentary, but then COVID happened. It made it really difficult.
We just got a subscriber. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Rowan. Thank you.
Michael, isn't that the story of the year with Yeah, we're gonna get the ball rolling on this, and then the world ends.
God,
Yes,
The ghost will have to wait.
Absolutely.
2020 was my year. I had like 4 projects lined up. I had the actors for them, which is a rarity for me.
Yes.
And I had locations that I had talked about buying out, like with the people. And then COVID happened.
God. I know you're I know the situation. I've been with you, talking to you as everything went. So
Yeah.
yeah. So my just to further the question that just went through. Um with this idea of this idea of even the audience being an unreliable participant. Yeah, they with this idea. How do you build I don't want to say consistent, but how do you build a good narrative? You know, how do you make it so that the story itself is enjoyable?
See, that was actually my biggest challenge with Soursalt. Because the original time I did it, the videos were uploaded just as I made them, as I had them on the camera even. So I'd have like 75 videos of us just in the woods, ranging from 2 seconds to 25 to like 5 minutes. And it felt realistic, at least. That was kind of the goal at the time. But I knew how I wanted that story to end. Granted, eventually later down the line, I figured out how I could continue it, and then I did that again. And unfortunately, I did it again. At the time, I knew how it was ending. And because of that, I knew I had an idea of what I could do to lead up to that point. So as far as what I wanted the audience to understand, it was just 3 simple things. That we went to the woods and it was creepy. We went to the road and maybe it was a dream, and it ends. And that was basically the main point of my narrative, was all of the extra stuff. And there was so much extra stuff. There was essentially a whole mythos of extra stuff.
Right.
That just some people learned, other people like read about, word of mouth.
You tend to
like that. It was meant to spread
that in your projects.
Yeah.
What's
The idea.
What's a web series without a Bible of 4,000 pages?
Exactly. The idea is just have a crazy world for each one of your stories, even if you don't have to show them. Because that's always what keeps me motivated. My first project was a Slenderverse ? Series. I don't know. It was whatever I really wanted it to be. And even then, the whole time I was like, what else is going on that's not even being shown? Are there spooky organizations that know about this? Are there, are there zombies? That one was Glass Beetles.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, it's funny, just getting back to talking over the years, that's another thing that kind of always cracked me up. Like, whenever we'd be doing like a creators, video chat or something, or, whenever we would cross paths, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, this person does so-and-so. And then you're talking about, the whole lore about this whole world, and you name drop it. It's like, that's not even, this dude's on another planet. They're already, miles away from me. Like, I would get confused, which project are you talking about and going hours in depth for?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, which ultimately maybe wasn't a problem, was that I just had so many ideas, and I wanted to show them, because that was all I was doing, that and working. So it became my hobby, and I didn't want to have a series with 1,000 videos, but I also had like 6 stories in my head. Mm-hmm. I think once I got the ball rolling and understood personally what I wanted to happen in Glass Beetles, I had like 3 more series already cooking up. And I think a lot of younger creators and older creators even that I've talked to, pretty much every early creator has this problem, where they think, all right, I have this story, but like, what if there's a prequel? Or what if there's a side story that'll tie into it?
God, yes. Oh, sorry. I just witnessed this guy get cracked in half by a desk. Please continue.
No, I'm watching it. Actually, it's just staring at him.
There's been a couple of moments that I'm just like, is anybody else seeing this?
Speaking of moments like these, I just want to take a moment. In Soursalt, there's a moment that I'm a huge lover of practical effects, and I think we can all, as horror lovers, we can all agree.
Oh, man.
When you pop somebody like a grape on camera,
Yes.
I think that's something that we should go into, because a lot of horror creators, get a little. I don't want to say intimidated. I want to say intimidated, not scared, to use practical effects or to use CG in a way that complements their work. A lot of people get intimidated by the idea of making special effects. When sometimes special effects are extremely needed. So I wanted to ask, how do you approach and I want to ask Jeff this as well. I want to hear this from both of you and just see how the answers differ. How do you approach the matter of special effects?
I have this vision of videos in my head. I know I talked to you about this, Rod, because it's
Yes.
like, I think it's something we both share, is like, we can see our episodes almost like movies. We think of them.
Yes, we can see it from beginning to end with all the cuts and all the cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I can just sit down and I guess think really hard and watch my episode play out like a video in my head. And there's something about like the way that I see these effects where I want to figure out how I can do them. Because when I see it in my head, I'm seeing like a big budget, like I'm watching it in a theater kind of effect. But I want to get close to that. And I actually went online and would look up sort of ideas with how people would do stuff with not a lot. I only had a camera and Movie Maker for my first series. And even then, I learned that I could use framing. So I could have like 3 frames cut for Movie Maker and then go into Microsoft Paint or GIMP or something and edit in a thing and then edit it by frames. So like I was always trying to improve how I could go about showing the effect that I wanted until I was able to get it close enough to what I saw in my head. But on the line for Soursalt, it was almost like I was challenging myself. I would go out and have a video, and then the idea is like, what can I do with what I have to make an effect for this video? So I guess that the idea that I wanted to see this video in my head play out on an actual video and I could share with people was one of the, if not the biggest driving force behind wanting to do certain effects and try to incorporate CG and like hours and hours trying to mask hundreds of hands I honestly didn't need because they showed up for half a second. But it was all just via that sort of image that I wanted to see.
So
Okay.
yeah, damn.
That's a very valid way of going about it. How about you, Jeff?
I was gonna say, like, I think people are reluctant to try to be ambitious with any sort of special effect, like you were saying, Rod. Are we going to rely on CGI? Do we have to make it ourselves? Because even though they're completely DIY doing this at home with zero to really no budget, I think they've seen so many spectacularly bad ones from big productions that it's like
Right.
they have nothing to be based against, and no honor to really, no shame to be had if they do fail. But they just don't want, they don't want that tied to their name. And I know, like, just recently, we were watching the Dark Harvest guys are going through their entire series. So they're showing videos from when they were seniors in high school, and I think, like, they can laugh about it now, but like certain things, it's like we talked about this. We always talk about this. If you could go back and fix one thing I'm sure there's a
Yep.
bunch of
Yes,
effects
absolutely.
along the way that we oh shit, I wish I had this $10 prop that is now available on Amazon 10 years later. Something that nobody would have had created back then. And it's just I feel like if there's one minor message the listeners can take from that, it's like if you have an effect in mind that needs to be done, go for it. The worst thing that's going to happen is you can't use the shot. But I know personally when we were working on EMH, we would have like not so much encounters, but we would have big scenes set up, and then it's kind of like the result of that is what kind of effect is this going to call for. I know there were plenty of times we all fell in love with the idea of like somebody's tongue getting ripped out or somebody's eye getting gouged out, and we all
As
fell
a treat, as a treat.
as a treat.
Yeah.
We all you all fall in love with that when you're in that you can see it as a movie stage of production. But then when it comes down to it, it's like, do we have the ability to do this? Do we have the money to do this? And like, do we have the time to do this? So I think personally, I'm kind of boring with that. Like, if I know there's going to be an effect that we can't nail, I probably fall into that category of being, let's avoid it. Let's not even, give it that shot. Probably for the worse. But I think if you fall in love with that sort of production, because Michael, I see like your like personal Instagram and stuff all the time, like you posting about doing blood effects and stuff, and that's just something I'm not good at, and I have all the respect in the world for people who you basically makeup artists. That's what it is. And I just know personally, I try to avoid that. I fall into that trap of, don't show it. And that's the worst trap you could set yourself up for, I think.
True.
So I think it seems that, when I'm in production, when I'm in the productive mindset, effects are kind of a second, they take second seat to everything going on. But personally, I should probably try to change that philosophy because you get inspired trying to think of. I mean, that's also a big part of it too. I do like the problem-solving aspect of it too. It's like we don't have the money for a prosthetic head. How do we make this person's head look like it gets ripped off?
Right.
How much are you going to not show? Like I think we painted ourselves into that corner and did well with things like Evan getting his arm almost ripped off by the rake. It's like you see the encounter up to a certain point, and then you see the after effect of the fight. So you can get away with not being able to show exactly what you want,
Right.
but that's its own set of problem solving after the fact.
Absolutely. Trick says some of the effects Michael often does live leave you terrified, and I can actually, I can vouch for that, because Mike, you've gotten in trouble before from people that think you actually harm yourself to make some of your effects, which I've seen literally every effect you've ever made since I've known you, and I've seen how you've done it, and I can say personally you don't harm yourself. But if that's not a testament to your talent as an SFX maker, I don't know what is.
Look, the live stuff is most stressful, but I think it's also probably the most rewarding because people always watch these series, and even with movies, you see these effects happen. Like you'll see somebody's eye get stabbed or like a monster show up, and it's all stuff you can do in post or stuff you can plan out. But oh man, that was one of my favorite things with the Soursalt live streams. Was it was all just for like 5 seconds. I'd have like an hour of the character talking and sort of interacting, and its purpose was just for this 5-second scene of he turns around and the monster rises up, and it's like, how did he do that? But man, the stuff like the eye scene, I can understand where people are freaked out by that. It's truly a really dangerous thing. But I trusted my ability to do it enough. I practiced with like just a Sharpie with things that wouldn't gouge my eye out, and I had WD-40 so I could open up the blade fast enough, close it. I did all my prep for it, and good God, even live I was horrified. You can almost hear the sigh of relief when I actually pull it off, because there was like a
God.
5-second moment where I was like, "Did I do it? Am I dead? No,
Did
wait,
it
I
work?
have to. Yeah, I have to act now." And then I scream, but man, there's a special kind of stress that comes with that.
Yeah. I
I mean,
mean,
I think. Oh, go on, Rob.
no, you go for it. You go for it.
I was gonna say, like, personally, talking about the whole trepidation and whatnot, reluctance to, heavily lean into effects. I know that's something that, as a team, me and the EMH boys, that was something just through experience that frustrated us because there has to be prep time for this for the smallest blood effect. I mean, unless you're just tossing gore somewhere. If you're trying to make it look good, there's going to be prep time, coming into play, and you're trying to make a schedule with people doing this on a low to no budget project. That's trying to herd cats as it is. So when you're like working with, you have 12 hours in the day, you're going to lose sunlight at some point. You have to set aside at least an hour to do this, any sort of special effect. I know that kind of could probably lead people to be hesitant to rely on these so much. I know, like, sometimes we had to cut effects specifically for that reason. We just ran out of time.
Yeah, God, they can take forever, even for simple stuff. I was just spreading blood one time for a scene, and I didn't even get to use the scene because it just got too dark, and I was trying to make it look too good.
That's a good question. Are there any, like, cutting for clips of videos or anything that just didn't make the final product, but you tried, we tried to make, I'm trying to think if there's any for us, and that'd be fun to dig into and see if there's anything out there for behind the scenes stuff.
Mike knows this story. I was shooting this thing where Ripley was being teleported from the top of a mountain back to the bottom. Like, it was a very direct and simple reference to Sisyphus. And he was like,
I love their early stuff. Their later albums kind of suck.
But there was this moment where Ripley's looking for Jay, and it's this whole moment that I had planned, which was going to be really cool because I was going to hear something off in the distance. The video cuts, very simple stuff, just to set up later stuff. And I get on top of this big ass boulder up in a mountain in California, and it's the middle of the day, and it's hot as balls out. It's the middle of summer, and I'm sweating. I'm tired as shit. Then I get on top of this boulder, and then all of a sudden, I hear a hissing right next to me.
Yeah.
But it's not any old hissing. It's rattling. And I'm like, all right, I'm in California. I'm about to fucking die to a rattlesnake, aren't I?
Yeah, man.
And I never saw it, but I could hear the damn thing next to me. And I just trip and fall off of a boulder. Like, I was wearing a GoPro on my head, and the GoPro just flies out. My glasses disappear, and I'm in a Dennis Nedry situation from Jurassic Park, with a Dilophosaurus. Yeah, with the Dilophosaurus next to me, and I don't have my glasses on, and I'm waiting to die poisoned. So
for Dennis.
Pretty much. So it's, like, I've been in situations where I almost died trying to make my show, and if I have a story of that, then Michael has 17. So
It's unfortunate, but I'm
This
alive.
whole thing started with them almost dying in a time loop, so auspicious beginnings and all that.
Exactly.
So we have Natalia in the chat is saying, so if we're taking questions about like the risky stunts, how, as leaders in these series, do you handle telling people not to try this at home with their own projects? She's seen people doing fan projects and actually harming themselves for the sake of a project.
Right.
I was actually about to get into that too.
Yeah. If I were to just to give the industry side of things, if you can't do something safely, don't do it. Most of the time,
that's what Lloyd Kaufman of Trauma Films, he lives by that. He even though the movies might be hot garbage, pure dumpster fires, behind, on the set, behind the scenes, he wants his cast and crew completely protected 100%.
Absolutely. See, the thing about it is that all of these examples that we give were, and I don't want to speak for Mike, but at least on my side of things, every single time that I've gotten in a situation that was dangerous, it has been because the plan failed, because something went wrong that we didn't account for. And that is what gets you and your friends hurt, not planning ahead. There were several situations where everything that could go wrong we planned for, and the things that went wrong we could handle because we planned for it. And Kate is asking, how often does something go wrong? Very often. Murphy's Law, when it comes to creating stuff, goes double. Because it, like, you'll be filming and then you'll realize that you never hit film, and the last 8 hours were for nothing.
There's no such thing as a perfect shot. It's just one that makes you want to pull your hair out less than the others.
Exactly. So the main thing about it is that you have to plan for everything, so that the one thing that goes wrong is the only one of your troubles. You get it? Mm-hmm. So if you have to be worried about it, you have to be worried because there's only one thing that went wrong, not a plethora of them. As for in-set safety, make sure to check all stunts with somebody that knows how to do stunts. Preferably someone who's trained in martial arts. Normally those people know how to take a fall, how to take a punch, and all those kinds of things. The other thing is always carry a first aid kit with you. And always know where the closest hospital is to your filming location. Those would be the ones I recommend everybody.
Those are good practical tips.
Taking...
Michael, were you gonna say something?
Oh god, I have too many experiences, but advice-wise, I think accepting that at any point, because we film live, like, we have to get in the shoes of our character and do things without like cinematic cameras, so it makes it harder. We have to do all this and do it right in our shot, or we have to completely redo that scene. So there's always going to be something that can and probably will go wrong. But my advice is, if you're doing something dangerous, sure, you plan ahead, like, what might go wrong? Will I accidentally stab my eye? If so, am I gonna be good? Can I get to the hospital? Like, what I did in that scene was I straight up parked near the hospital. I was right by the parking lot for the ER, and knowing just in case something goes wrong, what you can do and what you need to do and what you can do the fastest is a big help. One example is, one of my first series, I was filming right by a lake, and I thought to myself, just mid video, whoa, what if my character like gets pushed into the water? And I do that. I do the scene. I was using my GoPro. It was nice. The water didn't get it. It's perfect in my opinion. Crawl out of the mud, and I hear hissing, but it's not a snake. About 3 alligators.
God damn it.
And my first reaction is to whip out my phone, which was on the ground, and pick it up, and I text my friend Hunt. I'm like, I just fell in the water near alligators. Your first reaction should be, get out of there.
Yeah. Good horror movie tip: never go in the water at all. Even if it's a nice beach, there's going to be like parasites that swim into you and shit. It's like, just don't do it.
Especially in Brazil, which is where I am. There's a fish that swims up your pee-pee. Oh god, Jesus. Sorry.
Dude, seriously though, like, even up in the Northeast, it's like there's always going to be like fucking like refrigerators and stuff underneath the dark water, and you don't know if it's going to be like a broken pipe or something. You get in there, you get tetanus, and then you get to spend the holidays in the hospital with a nice infection.
So just always figure out, if something goes wrong, what you can do about it. Because like getting in the water and there's something sharp, something you can think about ahead of time. Be like, all right, well, maybe let's see where the water looks safest. Maybe I can like poke a stick around.
Yeah,
and stuff like that just makes the environment a lot easier to work in.
Yeah, there's a saying that goes with there's a saying that goes with stunts a lot when it comes to water. All safety precautions have to be tripled when it comes to water,
Sure.
because whenever you're doing stunts on land, you don't have to account for the fact that all of a sudden your stunt performer won't be able to breathe.
Right.
So it's silly at first, but when you think about it, it's a thing that nobody really goes into. The simple fact that, oh shit, you can't breathe. How do you deal with that? So
It's
every safety precaution gets tripled when it comes to water.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say like with water or dark, underground places, if you're gonna rely on any sort of effect, it's like before you shoot, before you do the effect live, walk in. Before you jump,
Yes,
walk in. Try to touch the
absolutely.
bottom. Get if it's an underground space, give yourself like what other entrances are there. Don't trap yourself for the sake of a project. And that's something that to answer the whole question that set this off about like how do you tell the viewers not to do this yourself when you're very clearly putting yourself in danger? I think
Mm,
it's a different ball game when it's you and three friends when you're barely 20 doing this on your own. You're not nobody's relying on you. Nobody is in your care. You're not taking care of anybody. So you're going to see people do stupid shit. We're going to do stupid shit because we wanted to do that. But
Yes,
it's hard to say don't do this because we're doing just that. So
I
you
would
can just try
say
to have them prepare themselves as best as possible. Like, I mean, just I'll let you go in a second, Rod. I had
sure,
this
sure,
thought like
absolutely.
literally today. I'm reading one of the most recent Weird New Jerseys, and I'm not 18 anymore. I don't have only to have to worry about a university schedule. I have people relying on me, and I'm relying on others for my well-being. So I can't just dip into an abandoned asylum after midnight anymore. So
right.
in terms of production stuff, it's like you have to be mindful of your cast and crew first, and then ask yourself what you're willing to do. If you're not putting anyone else in danger and you understand what you're getting yourself into, I'm going to give you a bad
Mm,
advice and say go for it, but do your homework. Just
Yes,
don't hurt yourself and don't hurt anybody else. It's inverse when you're doing this live. It's like when you're doing a project, don't hurt anybody else. If your dumbass gets hurt, then make sure you're not hurting anybody else in the process.
100%. I can even
absolutely.
touch on that because of uh, one of the reasons we actually had to stop working on the Hushitu exploration sort of idea. I went down there with my buddy Zim to get like some filming done, and I brought a friend along. And while we were down there, I was like, "Hey, what if we live stream it?" So we prepped up. I figured, what can go wrong? We're going in the woods that we've never been into. It's going to be night. Obviously, we might get lost. So we actually tethered ourselves together and used the rope tether to the car, and that was a huge thing of rope. We were able to go, I think, like, I don't know, maybe 100, 200 feet into the first part of the woods. But it wouldn't matter because there was a lake. So we go there, and it's creepy. It's, what we wanted. We hear, like, dogs barking distant at first, and then distant. And it's like at that point you have to think, okay, realistically, is this a ghost? Probably not. This is probably a wild animal or rabid dog because of the area. We should probably get out of here. And we did that. We just kind of stopped working. I stopped the live stream. I pulled up the camera though, just in case, which was really smart on my part considering what happened next. But somebody came out of their house and started shooting into the woods. And I'm there with somebody, I think at that point, I don't know if they were 18 or not. So like I had an adult friend and then a kid with me. And it was horrifying. So I get them in the car, I try to, all the lights are off, we're trying to stay quiet. And this person's just out there with a gun shooting in the woods. And I have one hand on the camera, the other just waiting to drive off. And by the time we actually drove off, she had turned and pointed the gun at the car. And at that point, I had to make the decision I can't go back to Hushitu. Like, I cannot bring people out there where we can get shot by crazy people shooting in the woods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Granted, I got the footage, but I do not recommend if something happens like that or something can happen like that. I strongly recommend it sucks, but don't risk it.
Yeah.
Even if, like, I wasn't going to stick around and see if I could be like, oh, I'm going to film the lady with a gun. Or let's just stay in the woods and hope she goes away. No, at that point, it's like, do what you can to get out of the situation and then decide whether or not you want to ever put yourself in that situation
Just
again.
remember, whether or not you die that night, people will still be bitching in the YouTube comments when the next upload is. So don't let that be the deciding factor of you pushing for that last ounce of footage.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. One thing that I would say though, and more to, it goes into that question of like, well, we're doing it, why can't they? The real answer to that, the only answer I can give you is, you're supposed to learn from us. Don't fuck up the same way we do. Just because we're dumb and we made these mistakes doesn't mean you have to. So take the advice of caution. The thing is, whether or not you can film that specific day, it's better to stay breathing. It's better to stay breathing and film another day at another location than it is to never be able to film ever again.
I assure you, no one will be able to edit that episode the way you want if you die.
But the thing that I would say is, when it comes to stunts and that kind of stuff, there are a lot of stunt videos online. A lot of people that explain how to do stunts, how to film stunts. There are a lot of classes on simple martial arts, not self-defense stuff, because self-defense you're actually gonna have to train properly. But just stuff that you can learn. How to fake a punch. How to fall safely. Without endangering your goddamn spine. So
it's important stuff.
Yes. So before trying to go for, those kinds of stunts, ask yourself, can I do this safely? And then after, and if the answer is yes, then we go into the more creative side of things, which is does this serve the story? Because it's one thing to want to embellish your story with really cool visuals and effects and stunts. It's another to truly ask yourself as a creator, does this serve the purpose I want? Is this going to make the story better? So
I think also with younger viewers might tend to fall into this trap. It's like, you have to remember at its core, you're not making traditional movies. This isn't traditional filmmaking. But at the same time, you're making some sort of media. You're not really documenting something. So you don't have to put yourself into danger to show that, have a story involving danger.
Absolutely.
Your uncle might own that farm, but when the moment you click play, this is old Jebediah's farm that you're not supposed to be at. You don't have to actually go to an abandoned army complex. You can go in the park behind your elementary school and make the movie, do the filmmaking, do what you're trying to do. You don't have to actually put yourself into danger to tell a story that involves a lot of violence and danger to the characters.
Absolutely. See, the danger doesn't have to be the danger doesn't have to be real, and it should never be real when you're making something. Jurassic Park didn't actually have real dinosaurs. I don't know if you know.
What?
Yes, I know. Crazy, right?
Well, if you're gonna buy into that conspiracy theory, that's
we're gonna have to stop pumping emoji right now. Are you telling me those dinosaurs aren't real?
Are you? Yeah, no. No, Jeff.
Trix has a good question. How often, Michael and Rod and I, how often have you been interrupted during filming? Is that a common problem or more of the exception?
Oh God. I have
that's why I like this question a lot.
Yeah, this is always the did the police show up question. I think for me, I have like okay. For me, I have about like 3 big events sort of that happen in this case. It doesn't happen nearly as much as you may think. But the police showed up when I was doing a scene for Handprints, So I was in full serial killer outfit with my friend, just at like this random. It wasn't private property, but it was just this sort of like building in the middle of a
It
neighborhood.
wasn't public property, but it's certainly private property, but it certainly wasn't a park.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a strange little house in the middle of a neighborhood that people just go to, like a little clubhouse. So I'm in there. I'm drenched in gore. We got the blue tarp out for all of the gore, and apparently somebody got really scared and called the police. They show up, and we're in the middle of one of the shots where it was like, I mean, at the end of the day, it was just a black room essentially for all the viewers. But we're in the middle of one of the shots, splashing gore on the wall. You're knocking on the door. Turn around, there's just two police officers. In the middle of my serial killer web series? How dare you? Yeah.
Too much immersion.
Oh man, it's way too much. At that point I was trying to decide, do I film this? Like, is this canon? Did the cops catch hooks? But no, I dropped the camera, dropped the act. We're like, hello, we're filming a student film. I'm at whatever university.
I'm going to gut you. Hello, officer. How is your day going?
How about you, Bob? Oh, sorry, Michael.
I was gonna say the good time it actually happened, like good memory, because they kicked us out even though it was a public place. I was filming stuff for the role play, and we were at this really beautiful lake that's supposed to be Eden, and I'm having the most emotional moment for my character. Like, I'm sitting near this bush, and I'm sobbing because I just had to watch like my ghost girlfriend disappear forever. So it's a big deal. I'm in character sobbing, saying like, why couldn't it be me that died? And I just hear and this golf cart pulls up with this big jolly man that looks dead ass like Santa Claus, just staring at me. And in the chat it's boy was with me. And they're still trying to be in character because they've walked down this path. They don't see him yet. Oh no, it's just a student film. But I'm like, it was an emotional moment. I was real crying. I'll be real.
That's incredible.
I was like, sir, are you okay? Is everything good? I'm like, no, it's a student film. Look, my friends are down there. And he drives down, and we cleared it up. And he's super nice. He was like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's exciting. I'm glad y'all are using my property for that. Go on." But not everyone's
gonna have to kidnap you.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna be like that. So it's just a nice little story in my arsenal of bad events that have happened.
I just imagine this poor man coming out like, "Oh, I wonder if that boy is doing all right."
He heard the sobbing.
He has no
God.
context for this now. Months into years after the fact, he's like, "Were they telling the truth? Did I just like walk away from something like the worst moment of somebody's life?"
I can only imagine like this guy comments on this stream like, "Oh, so everything was all right. Good to know. Good to know."
The way it worked out, drops $100 and disappears for another 6 months.
Please, he was so nice. I feel like he.
God, I never had the cops show up on me, but we were, and so here's the thing that, you know, maybe I shouldn't tell you to do. Maybe I should. I'm a huge believer in guerrilla filmmaking.
Yes.
Seriously, if it's difficult to get a permit and you're just gonna film something for 10 minutes, don't get the permit. Just do what you need to do. If you're not gonna monetize your movie, you're not gonna have to worry about people suing you for using a location without a permit.
What's this saying? It's better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the thing that happened was, it was the whole Monarch 52, like, the garage video that Mike was talking about, where Ripley and Alice fight, and then the Serpent's Hand show up. And this, you know, we're down there with the whole crew. It was me, Jameson, Kike, Alex, Jackie, and Nina. Yeah, I think. Okay, I just decimated the boss. Sorry. we're just down there. We have fake blood. We got all these weapons. We got like a FAMAS. We have an M14. We have all these weapons down there, and they're all obviously prop weapons. They had the tips attached. They had the orange tips. We removed them in post with chroma key. Shout out to Spencer, my editor, and we are just there, just finishing, doing the finishing touches on this whole action scene that was very fun to make. And we are in a parking garage in the lowest area, in the lowest floor of this parking garage, right next to an IKEA that's now a Spirit Halloween. I'm not joking. And we're just there having a good time, just fighting and doing everything. All of a sudden, this dude comes out of an elevator. And I shit you not, he's wearing a white suit with like white shoes, like white dress shoes.
The foundation's high.
No, this guy just comes out with the freaking alligator skin like bag, just rolly bag. And he just comes out of the elevator and stares at us, and we have Jameson dressed up as one of the Serpent's Hand guys, and he's got a gas mask on. He's got a shema on him, and he has like this army outfit. He's holding a FAMAS in his hand, and we're just on the ground, and I'm covered in blood, and he just looks at us. And this was in a rehearsal. We don't have the footage for this because we weren't filming, but I'm like on top of Jameson, ready to like punch him in the face, and I look up and I see this man just staring at us with this perfectly pressed white suit and like snake leather fucking bag, and he's like, "You guys busy?" And I'm like,
I can come back.
And I'm like, we're filming for a show. The guns are fake. Sorry. And he's like,
oh my God.
And he's like, okay. And he just walks away. And here's the thing: there's an elevator on one side of the garage, and an elevator on the other side. So this motherfucker just comes out of one side of the elevator, walks all the way to the other side, and takes the elevator up for no reason.
He just wanted to be included.
I guess, but it was so fucking funny.
It's always once the blood is out that somebody
exactly
the set.
Exactly.
When we were filming towards the end of EMH, in my mind they all run together, but they were probably some of the best times. Oh wait, let me get this mosquito.
That's not a mosquito, Jeff.
So it's a dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Oh
God, bitch. Anyway,
look at this.
Towards the end, the last 3 videos before the end, all of it like kind of run together in my mind because we filmed them all in like the same 4 months or so. And oh wait, am I not being picked up?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, sorry, I tend to mumble. Anyway.
I could increase Jeff's microphone real quick. Give me a second. No, keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Kate. I think it just might be a small technical glitch, but also I mumble. Anyway, so we're filming in the park, and it's the scene where Vinny's running away from, his problems, the monsters, blah blah blah, and he sees a vision of me with blood on my face, and accusing him of horrid shit, blaming him for the deaths of our friends, blah blah blah. But as you know, watching the video, there's a lot of the video that he's completely by himself. So there is like a solid combined half hour that I'm sitting in the woods, covered in blood, and trying just to avoid, confusing people or scaring people. But I think, because I'm not the most, lucky or charismatic or nimble person. So me trying to avoid being seen probably just made it that much more, suspicious. So at one point I'm like, fuck it. And when Vinny is walking through the woods, you see me lying up against the tree, as just a part of the scenery. So I kind of was like, fuck it. I'm not going to be slouching in the shadows anymore. I'm just going to be sitting here with blood. And this one couple, like, I swear to God, like, they were like the anti-Karen. Like they were the two people in the world you would see and be like, all right, these people are gonna raise shit. They had everything but the Starbucks cups. They had the Karen haircuts and the dog with them. And I was like, oh my god, I'm about to. They're gonna call the cops or something. But they were so nice. They're like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "No, man, it's fine. We're doing a movie or something." She goes, "No, what's wrong? You have blood on you." I'm like, "Yes, I know I have blood on me, but we're filming something. I promise you, we're okay." And like for 10 minutes, them walking away, it was like the fucking ending of the original Incredible Hulk. She just kept looking back at me like she was abandoning a puppy or something. So like that was like one of the good interactions with people walking onto the set. But
That is amazing.
in terms of being mid murder, no, we didn't have cops or anything like that, like Michael has shared. But yeah, lots of fun times with people. Us planning ourselves in public places and then being surprised when people show up.
Right. Yeah. No. I. Yeah. I had one more moment like that. It was just we were rehearsing the finale for M52, and Jameson again is covered in blood and he's against a rock, and every 5 minutes joggers in LA would come by because we were at the Wisdom Tree Trail, and just you can imagine like LA people just seeing people bloodied and going like, "Are you filming for a movie?" And I'm like, "It's a show," and they're like, "Oh my god, that's so cool."
Yeah, I feel like LA and Philly, we can bond over the fact that people are going to think it's the coolest shit ever, or they're going to completely ignore it and be on their merry way.
Yes, there's no in between. There's literally no in between. Kate asks, while filming, has any of you been accidentally hurt by one of the people you're filming with? If by people you were filming with you count myself, yes, because we were doing the finale for M52, and I have this moment where I have to fall on my knees, and this is a thing that you should. This is a lesson for all of you.
Yeah.
I had this moment where I have to fall on my knees, right? And the thing that a lot of people misconstrue about their own knees is that knees are pretty fucking fragile, man. They can seem very strong, but they're very fragile. And Ripley gets possessed by Vidar, and he cracks Kreen's neck like a twig. And after that, he falls on his knees with a huge headache. That's what was on the script. So I'm just standing there, right, after being tossed around, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna fall to my knees now. So I fall to my knees, and this insane pain just shoots through my body. Oh shit! Sorry, I forgot about this guy. This insane pain just explodes through my body, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just do? Did I just dislocate my knee? Did I just break my knee? What did I just do? And turns out there was a goddamn rock right where I fell down on my knees. It was just waiting. It was just waiting for me. And it was honestly one of the worst pains I've ever had. And I had checked for rocks before because that was going to be one of the places where I was going to fall and shit. So we're checking for rocks, and alright, cool, no worries, there's nothing here. But then that one rock that passed us by.
Single best.
So, and then again, that goes again to the thing I said, we planned for that, and we had a first aid kit handy. And since everything we did in that scene was, we had to be so quick about everything, I had to change clothes between, scenes. Because we had to be so quick on everything, we had the first aid ready to go and just waiting. So I bandaged my knee, put some ice on it, and run. Just go. And I tried not to limp because Ripley's not supposed to limp, but goddamn I couldn't. And then later on, you can still see me limping towards the end of that video, and it sucks.
You can see a little bit of a leg wobble.
Yeah, it just sucks. That moment where I fell again later on, that I tripped on my own feet, that's real, hurt myself again. But you know, you're gonna trip in real life, so that stuff is just gonna happen.
And sometimes you luck out and you can make it a part of the story, the canon.
Exactly.
How about you, Michael? You get any on-set injuries when the set is our world?
You know, I didn't have the luxury of working with actors or like friends for the most part, which was sort of good in a way because I didn't have that many mishaps. But I had maybe like 3 that I can bring up that just stuck with me. I think the biggest one, I got straight up knocked out in a shot, like blacked out and everything.
Oh,
Lost about
jeez.
2 seconds. Well, it was like 2 seconds, but I was blurry for about 2 more minutes. It was a video where a friend and I had practiced for weeks. Like at this point, he was able to actually like pull his punch, and it was something we had planned for. We were all ready for it. We'd done tests upon tests, and finally did it. He was able to pull every punch. We go to film the main video. There's that sucker punch, and it connects with the helmet that I'm wearing, right at the temple. And just everything goes black. We actually used the shot too, which is hilarious. I just crumple like a sack of potatoes. It's one of the funniest things that I've actually kept in my takes, just because I'm gone at that point.
I mean, at that point, you have to keep that in, right?
Yeah, because like no other take looked as good. I mean, we still did the connects. We did like a nice little monologue even in one of them, but nothing looked as good as him just straight up knocking me out with a sucker punch to the head.
Right.
But probably the worst, other than getting knocked out, once again for the role play, and we were doing the video, and the idea was that the character was escaping this like torture that they've been in for a couple days, and they finally got the upper hand on the 2 captors, which are just these insanely powerful, like basically habit, but 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And Jeff kind of knows what I'm talking about. They use a pinata stick to beat both of us down, just because so off guard and everything. And before that, we had found out the pinata. Well, I say we had found out. I think Aaron actually knew about it, but the other person I was with, Juno, didn't quite realize that the pinata stick would hurt. So we're doing a take without having completely live, fully improv, without even testing what would work. Juno just picks up the pinata stick and belts Aaron with it, and you can actually see it in post. Like in the video, I just recoil in shock because of the noise that comes out.
Did you roll with it, or did you have to cut?
Yeah, no, we rolled with it.
Oh man,
they hit a little less hard afterwards. Yeah, it sounded like it hurt, and it's now confirmed it hurt so bad.
It's the I like you cut, G. Just hit it as hard as possible.
It wasn't something that we could cut because the acting at that point was so fluid. Like they had just gotten in character, they were in that headspace.
I think the acting was probably pretty good. They would just beat down with a stick.
Yeah, so we just did that. The second time we did it, we all knew the stick would hurt. So Aaron's like, all right, I'll use the stick, and we'll like pull it. But we didn't, like, I didn't have the time to try to teach Aaron a good method of punch pulling or pinata stick stopping. So I just said roll with it. Like if you're gonna stop with Juno, then just hit me whenever you do punch scenes. So I guess that transitioned over to the pinata stick scene. In the moment, I had no idea. My back was turned. I did not realize that it was time for that moment. So I'm just mid-conversation. Aaron gets this pinata stick and belts me with it. Like right across the back. And then hits me like 3 more times. Lightly taps Juno a second time, then just goes back to town on me with it.
Jesus.
That's gnarly.
You poor thing.
I don't think we ever had a major injury. I'm sure people got, between the 3 of us, we got hurt, but because like we were so committed to it, I don't really, like nothing leaps out at me. Like if my brother or like Daniel got hurt, I think I would remember that and obviously feel bad about it. Or like if one of our friends were there, but I don't think there was anything major. I know when Evan had to put the wet rake makeup on, he was dying of potential hypothermia and frostbite being outside and
God.
basically naked in the middle of a Poconos winter. But in terms of like, I think we were pretty lucky with the fight, any fight choreography and whatnot. Like, Evan and Vinny might have punched each other, but they were committed. They knew what had to be done. And there might have been like some small sticks with like the knife before it was like, careful acting time, but nothing crazy.
Right.
Of course, I could say that, and then he'd be like, "You fuck! I lost a tooth or something." I'll have to reconvene with the gang before I could say yes or no on the injury report.
Right. I mean, I've found that when you do stunts with people the communication is so much easier when it comes to like figuring out just how hard you can go. Sometimes you have to connect because of the angle you're going for, but that communication is so important. Like and just going off of something that the three of us love. If you look at WWE, the whole point of it is that they have moments where they're talking to each other to communicate, like, hey, do this now with this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Cena's really good at that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd say more than 20% of the whole show is doing stage directions without the audience knowing.
Exactly.
And it's funny though. Sometimes you'll also, like, just in terms of production, when you're working with strangers, I think, Rod, you were kind of getting at it. It's like, especially with somebody who's like smaller than me, I know I'd be holding punches back. I know I'd be very concerned about not hurting the person, even though we're doing like a fight scene. But sometimes, like when we very early on at that video, we break the Stephanie character out of a hospital. The dude who was with us, this guy Rob, we were friends with him, but like we weren't like best friends. We didn't really know him, but we were there and we were giving him the rundown. And we told him like, loosely what we wanted to do, and he's like, "All right, so when you tackle me, come for me." And I was like, are you sure? He's like, "Yeah, we want to make it look real, right?" I'm like, "Are you sure, man? We're tackling each other on tile." And he's like, "Yeah, no, go for it. We'll see how it goes." So like, that shoulder tackle is as 100% of a shoulder tackle as you're going to see in EMH.
Jeez. Yeah, I think because everybody in M52 like has had background with like stage combat and stuff, so we never really went for it in any of the moments. I know, for example, like Mike and I, like, cause we haven't had the chance to film together yet, but I know for a fact that like with Mike, I'm gonna be able to like pull my punches but still connect, and I don't have to worry about. Right, and the same thing for me. Like, we both know martial arts to an extent. We both know each other, and we trust each other enough that, like, if I'm doing something too much, he's gonna say something, and he's gonna let me know.
Or just die and be like, just roll with it.
Sure, why not? Why not? Let's go against everything we've been saying so far, but why not?
I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying, knowing us, that is a not zero chance of that happening.
Sure.
The thought has crossed my mind once.
The one thing that I kind of wanted to get into as well, not to change the subject completely.
That was a good question.
It might be. We might have to call the powers that be if we keep talking about a live stream suicide. So,
well, it's always a possibility. Never say never. One thing that I want to ask is, Soursalt is filled with intellectual puzzles. Both on the side of, hey, can I trust my own mind when it comes to this, and just regular puzzles to test the audience's ability to like remember stuff and see if they can put two and two together. How and I know this is a very common thing for creators to use, and especially new creators. They sometimes rely too much on that, and I'm a little at fault at that as well. How do you approach puzzle creation?
So
That is a good question.
I'm awful at it. We'll just get that out of the way. I've never, like, I was the binary guy. I used I used binary.
Cruise
'cause I
control to
just
cool, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, all caps, binary, cruise control to cool. Say "I am God" a few times and wear a white mask. You're golden.
Look, I set my shares of I Am God in my first proxy series.
We all did. Literally a key point in all of our projects. Don't feel bad about it.
You know, but that's the thing is like people always mock binary and I Am God and Zalgo text, but like at the end of the day, we're telling these stories immersively. That's one of the big key factors is you want to log onto YouTube and watch this series that maybe might be real, maybe might not. And unfortunately, we can't corrupt people's YouTube and show like creepy flashing text. We have to work in videos and post. So there's not a lot you can really do when it comes to people that are starting out, and that's okay. I just thought that people using binary or using like Rot 13, things that we all know about is actually really good in the sense that the community that you're showing your stuff to has seen it before. Like we've all seen that in Marble Hornets. To the Arc did it. It's something that we all kind of see and it's like, oh, that's familiar. I think I can solve this. And one of the biggest factors behind that is wanting people to solve your puzzle. There's no reason to have a puzzle if no one's going to solve it.
Sure.
So
Sorry, you called yourself I was the binary guy when you're non-binary.
yeah, I was. It's
Isolate that and make that a ringtone.
Oh, go on.
evolution as a creator. I still refer to my past series as like he and him whenever it comes to me having made it.
And
but-
I totally try to correct myself. I apologize that for earlier.
You're good. So for puzzles, it's like I want to make something that I know people are gonna understand. I'm really bad at that because sometimes I underestimate, sometimes I greatly overestimate. No offense, my viewers, like when it comes to the story that I'm telling. So early stuff was like binary, creepy Zalgo text, things that you've seen in every other Slender series, so you can keep pointing on that and do it. But for Soursalt, I wanted something different. I wanted to really like mess with people. And my first puzzle, if you'd call it that, was actually just blurry text. It was done in a way where the I think the Gaussian blur for it had it as the left-right channel, so it just looked like stretched text almost. And people tried to figure it out. So I kind of evolved that and was like, all right, I'll do flashing stretched text or like rapidly blurring text and play around with all that without having to do puzzles and numbers at first. Like things that people could just Google, you know? I wanted to try to stay in like, let me make people think about what they're about to solve rather than recognizing it immediately.
Right.
And I'd say it was a fault because not a lot of people were able to do this. It was very specific. I didn't realize how specific it was at the time. But one of the biggest puzzles in the beginning of Soursalt, one that literally only 2 people solved, was this really, really important foreboding text was sent out in the comments, but it could only be deciphered if you used a certain type of keyboard.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's funny. Kay last week was almost the same exact problem or situation to have.
You think it's like really cool at first, and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be neat because people are gonna see these symbols on their keyboard or mobile, and they'll be like, oh, I can solve this. Then I start getting the answers back, and it's not quite what I typed. Like not even close sometimes.
Oh no.
So I look it up, and the keyboard that I typed it on was like a Samsung Galaxy J1 or something.
It's like a very specific one.
So yeah, and certain symbols for whatever reason were just not in the normal place. And this text was like, wasn't detrimental to the story, but essentially if you solved that, you knew what was going on.
Oh boy.
And a lot of people, probably like 98% of people didn't. But it was really cool because at the same time, you now have a puzzle that in-game can't be solved. Like, none of the characters that were in-game helping like Discords and stuff could actually figure it out because at that point it was technically impossible. without that specific phone. But the cool part was that phone was from that time period. So when that video would have happened, that phone would have been popular.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. No, and that's also I think a part I like about these things that people tend to forget is they very much are like a time capsule to, whenever they're coming out. Michael, do you want to just give a quick refresher blurb to people who might have joined since the hour and a half we've been doing this? A quick TLDR about Soursalt?
Yeah, on October 21st, 2016, about 600 people woke up subscribed to a really strange channel on YouTube, which I did through a little secret method. But there was just weird videos that got uploaded to it, and then over time a narrative got built from the people those videos were supposedly from. And it just ends in this crazy, like almost Lovecraftian dream satire of like web series, but at the same time like a serious horror story, in my opinion. It's pretty spooky.
And if you do go back to watch this video on demand, we've been talking about it, a lot more in depth. But a big theme of it is even when you have video evidence, people are telling conflicting stories about what they know reality or what they think reality to be. So I was going to ask you, Rod, something, but I lost it.
That's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
I think.
Oh, about the puzzles. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's this is a thematic series of conversations we're having with our friends and fellow creators, but I think it's interesting, Michael. You kind of approach it the opposite way of not the opposite, but just a different way from how I've seen them. I joked last week. It's like as much as we're in the ARG world and I'm known for working on this kind of stuff, in my mind that I almost like I don't hate them, but it's like I'm going to avoid writing this until the very end. I'm going to avoid plugging it in till the end. So the idea of somebody using binary code or something that's very common, I completely get what you're saying. It's like, yeah, give them something accessible.
Sorry, I just got clocked in the face. Go on.
Something that giving them a code that they are that's accessible is, I'm sure that's very rewarding, and I've never approached it that way. But I think something we did touch upon last week was do you give a puzzle for the sake of giving a puzzle, or how important is it to the story that like who's giving the puzzle, is that important to the story, or is it just something to move it along for the viewers, give them a piece of interactivity to to play with?
I think it's both, honestly. There is merit in both reasons. I honestly don't think one should rely too much on using a puzzle when you don't know what to do. But at the same time that it can be overused, it's also a very useful tool, and that's the reason it gets overused. I think, and as a game designer, like somebody who loves the idea of designing a game for people to play, and that's pretty much what we do when it comes to our shows. I think a puzzle can be, and it should be, a thematic thing. It should intertwine with the theme that you're going for when it comes to
like that.
when it comes to your show. In Mike's case, I think it's one of my favorite things about Soursalt. It's the fact that, in fact, it does intersect with the thematic. This idea of not being able to trust your own instincts. And memory is not only felt by the characters. You don't hear people going, "Oh, I don't know if I can trust what I remember," and then you're like, "Oh, but I totally can." That's not something you're going through. Both you as a player and as the character, you have this connection, this empathy that comes not only from seeing them go through difficult things, but also the fact that, holy shit, this is really difficult. How the hell am I supposed to fix this? Oh, I think we're back. I think we're back. We are back live. Cool. It says, hmm. Oh, and there we go. There we go. Try talking.
There we go.
There we go. All right,
Very good.
we're good.
So I was just talking about how Michael was talking about codes being easily accessed and whatnot, and my cynicism having come from so many people trying to talk to me from their character accounts or trying to get me interested in their series, and it's just a young kid usually being excited. So I think, and then like further to that point, they're just emulating what they see in the series that they like. So that
Right.
comes to me seeing at a surface what looks like half-ass projects with these same type of codes, but really it's just usually young kids doing their thing. But at the same time, mentally that I just see those codes everywhere. I see that as I saw that as a lackluster attempt, but I'm going to be more open to that sort of thinking if I do come across that in the future, because I think that's a big part of it too. It's like, where are these projects coming from? Who's making them? And are they just copying what they like, or is there a reason for them, throwing out an easy puzzle in the first 6 months of a project?
It's definitely if we're going to talk about this about game jacks, actually, I think it stems from sort of what people do these game jacks for, like why they repeat puzzles or why they try to insert their character into your world and all that. Because like I have been on the internet for a good minute when it comes to Slenderverse,
Sure.
and I have seen so many of like EMH2s and random Habit.
Habit TikTokers, that's a very popular
Is that a
choice as we get
thing?
closer to Halloween.
Jesus.
Like,
Okay.
I remember watching this one series. It's like Movie Maker Threshold and whatnot, and Habit shows up. I'm like, okay, well,
Oh no, he was
Habit, here we go. And it's just these young kids getting excited and wanting to tell a story. But what I saw was that was actually, in my opinion, what developed the Slenderverse.
Oh, absolutely.
Marble Hornets come out and it made it a series that people were like, "Ooh, I want to do that."
Yeah.
And then every hybrid happens, and it's showing people, look, we can deviate from Marble Hornets. Like we don't have to have Masky.
Yes.
We can have Habit.
And I think that's the beauty of what we exist in. It's collaborative. It's this idea that anybody can add on, like not necessarily in the same universe, but
Right.
in the same multiverse, so to speak.
Like the same genre, the same theme.
Yeah, sure.
It's
Same,
just-
same monster,
there was the
different
whole-
strategies.
There was the whole Slenderverse web that I think Evan did the from Stan Frederick did the whole crossover web picture that used to circulate a ton, and I still love just picking that picture up and showing it to someone, and they're like, "Wait, that's the Slenderverse."
Yeah, the crossover web is kind of
Yeah.
impressive for its own reasons.
And like that's not even the half of it. Like there's
No.
so much more from beyond that, and all of that just developed because some people were like, "I want to do that too."
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that's what made these codes cliche to us as creators that are like have moved beyond it, so to speak. You'll see like a small channel pop up, and their first video has the operator symbol, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm sure us three are gonna be like, "Ooh, eye roll." But
Sure, yeah.
At the same time, it's like they're emulating what they liked, what they saw, and
Yeah.
they're about to tell their own story with everything they were given.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
one thing that we seem to forget,
So impressive.
one thing that we seem to forget is like people look at Scorsese films today and they're like, "Oh my God, he's so incredible," but when he started off, people are like, this stuff, like everybody's done this stuff before. you know. But he is a good filmmaker because he took the stuff he saw and he evolved it. He went ahead. He took the next step, you know. So we will never see that unless we, as already established creators, support the ones that are coming after us.
Absolutely. It's when I say cynical, I mean completely me curmudgeonly by myself. I'm never going to be outwardly frustrated
Of
to
course,
a kid doing their thing, and I'm supportive because I know how much just being like, oh, that's pretty cool, go for it, can be to anybody, not even just a kid. So when people earnestly try to show me things, I'm not going to be dismissive of them, and they might see. I mean, Rod, I think we might have talked about this, maybe not on stream, but it's like they might completely abandon that first project, but then you see, a year later, what came out of that foundation of it.
Exactly.
What they ended up, learning or not learning, what they learning what worked or didn't work.
I would say learning, yeah, because the thing is, like, I don't tell a lot of people this. When the first idea I had for M52 was actually going to be a Netflix show. And I did pitch it to Netflix, and they obviously said no. But it was at a time in my life where pretty much everything had gone wrong. So when it came down to it, it stopped being about, like, oh, the stuff that went wrong, and it started being like, how can I make this into something that works? So
Sure.
It was less a matter of, oh man, what the hell am I gonna do about this? More like, okay, that didn't work, how do I make it work? And that was what created Modern 52.
Oh, dude, we sent an email to fucking Robert Englund's agents trying to get him to do a bit for. Now, mind you, EMH was supposed to run for 8 more months at that point in 2010. So we figured, just a picture of Robert Englund as James Cornthal on some film slide somewhere, that would have been enough. But I don't think Mr. Englund would have flown out and shot at our friend in a stupid costume.
Right, of course.
But you aim for the swing for the fences, so to speak.
I contacted him for Soursalt.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's going to have a blacklist of people from, that side of the internet.
I haven't contacted him yet, so it might.
I get that email drafted.
I saw that. I brought it up, and he was like, man, that's really cool. And then I thought, oh, I'll just tell him in a few months. I'll be like, hey, that thing I told. But, like, obviously I'm talking to his agent. I don't care.
Right. See,
That's this dude.
The thing is, there was this just two things. One, like, my version of that was Paul Lighting, the guy that does Colonel Campbell in Metal Gear Solid.
Right.
I met the guy at a comedy club, and he was really nice. We became friends on Facebook, and eventually I sent him a message, and I'm like, hey, would you be down for playing a Colonel Campbell-esque character in my show? Like, and he's like, oh, sure, send me a script, let me know when you want to shoot. And then, we're friends, but I'm not going to make him work for free. So even today, I'm still saving for the day that I might hire Paul Lighting to do, like, a guest appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But
Get him on camera.
I would love to get him on camera. But it's like, moments like those, I think it speaks to our naivete, and I think that naivete is important. I think that being in love with your own project enough that you believe it can work, but not enough that you're willing to, like, be an asshole for it.
Right. And that's exactly what we were talking about effects and choreography and whatnot. It's like, if you're willing to do it, go for it. So, like, there's no reason that can't be applied to, like you said, if you're not being an asshole, there's no reason you can't apply that to the social aspect of production.
Right.
I do want to switch over to something that Cade asked, because I think it's a very important thing that we could talk about, especially with you, Mike, because you have inspired so many people to get started with their own work. Cade asks, how does someone get into creating their own stuff? What does it take to be a good creator? I know anyone can be one, but what is a good start?
Whew.
And it's a very valid question. It's a very, very.
It's a great question. It's a huge question.
Exactly. I think it's a very important one
definitely one
too.
of the most important questions. Because I think we've all had to answer it at some point in our life. Before you picked up the camera from EMH, before Rod wrote down Monarchs 52, you think about, why am I about to do this?
Yes.
And how do I word this? Honestly,
Oh yeah, go for it.
I think just really, if you think about it, whenever you're sitting down and you're watching movies or something and you think, I can do that, or I want to do that, I could do that. Let's say like a sci-fi movie, Sci-Fi Saturday got Abominable or some earthquake film or something on,
Right.
and you think, I want to try something like that. And for a lot of us, it's the Slenderverse, because you see other people that are capable, like editing in a Slender Man or throwing a tall friend in, and it's just whether or not you want to act on that, because you think, well, what's the point? Am I about to just upload videos for an audience that I want to keep growing? Am I about to upload them to tell a story? Why am I about to do this? And I think what it takes to be a good creator is to have that sort of self-realization of, why are you creating?
Right.
Are you making it for fans? Are you making it for fame? Which I wouldn't say it's the worst thing, but personally, I make stuff to tell a story. I can't think of how many projects I've made that I've only shown to like 12, 15 or so people.
Right.
That don't share around, just because I told a story and I wanted to be like, hey, look at this creepy eldritch horror thing that happened. So yeah, for somebody, in my opinion, to be a good creator, I think you just have to know what you're making stuff for, why you're creating, because at that point you can really narrow down your motivation, and it just, I don't know, it leads to so many open doors that there's never been a point in my life since I started, since 2011, where I just sat down and said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
Because so much has happened, good and bad, that's just led up to this point where it's like, this is why I do it. Because I'm telling stories. I'm really telling stories. Like, I think I've made 23, 24 series.
Wow.
Yeah, only like 11 or 12 of those really matter, like people know about, but the ones that know about all of them, it's close to in the 20s, early 20s.
That's something Evan and I always say to each other. It's like, one way or another, our lives would be entirely different without the project and the people we met and the things that went into it. Like you said, for better or worse in some regards, but yeah, mostly positive. It's I think I'm in a pretty great spot, and I wouldn't have really changed much. And maybe a few key things, but it does kind of change your life if you throw yourself at it.
I wish I could have done it anonymously. Like, I admire Kay greatly for being able to just make something and not throw your face on it.
Sure.
But yeah, it just, when at this point, looking back on it, like you said, I'm glad that I did it. Right. And I did what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell my stories, and I wanted to show people, and I want to keep doing that. And if you have that sort of drive to do something and to make something, I think you will be a good creator, regardless of if you have 100 fans, 10 fans, or 1,000, 10,000.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, if you're telling the story you want, there's going to be people out there that are going to want to see it, that are going to want to see what
I think that's that's a great way of looking at it. And I think doing it, like making it a simple reason why you're doing it, like you said, telling stories, the least amount of people you are relying on for that satisfaction, I think the less depressed you're going to be about it, how it goes one way or another. If you're telling it, you're doing it to tell a story, you're going to tell that story if it takes you 6 months to 10 years. But if you go out saying, I want to make this my job, I want to get rich and famous, I want to have followers, you're relying on other people and a tremendous amount of luck for that to happen. So it's not, not to say you can't do that. You can't make a feasible business plan or something if that's really what you're going for. But it's like at that stage, you're basically saying you want to win American Idol. it just doesn't happen like that, unfortunately, no matter how
Yeah.
talented you are. So if you're going to find satisfaction in it from the offset, I think you set yourself up. Anything else is house money.
That a couple of things I would say, being this is not self-deprecating. It's just like being the least prolific of the three here when it comes to my work. The one thing that I will say when it comes to that is it's okay to want to be bigger. It's okay to it's okay to want to push yourself and not be satisfied. And that hunger, that thirst is something that has kept me going for a very long time, and I think I speak for all three of us that thirst, that hunger is something that's required for creating.
Sure, I wish AMH was bigger. It's not like that's the funny thing when we talk about scale with all of this kind of stuff. It's like we have people we respect and in some cases almost idolize, and it's like you take 2 steps in any direction in the internet and most people have no fucking idea who you're talking
Exactly.
about. Like Nightmind, Nick is a pretty good dude, but I don't think if you went to a class reunion and threw a rock, I don't think you would hit somebody that necessarily knew who Nightmind was.
90% of the people that I talk to and people that are in the industry, they have no idea who Nick is.
Yeah.
So, but what I would say would be just the focus of your creation, in my opinion at least, should be 2 things, right? You should first make it for yourself. Make the story that you want to see. Make the story you want to see told. And I say that because, my favorite author of all time, Tolkien, that is exactly what he did. He wanted to read stories about, he wanted to revitalize the Anglo-Saxonic mythology. He wanted to have the epic, exactly. And he wanted that done, so what did he do? He researched it. He was more knowledgeable in it than anybody else, and then he made it happen. Now, sure, maybe you won't be the next Tolkien, and that's okay. But the thing is, if you love what you're creating, don't get me wrong, it will still be work. It will still be work, and it has to be. But it'll be work that you enjoy doing. It'll be work that brings out the best in you, that challenges you, that makes you want to wake up the next day and be like, oh man, like, fuck, I got this idea for this shot that I want to try, and I can't go to sleep until I try it. Like, so the first thing that I would say is if you're not in love with what you're about to make, then find something. I'm not gonna say don't make it. I'm gonna say find something about it that you love. Find something about it that you do, that you're absolutely obsessed with.
Right.
And the other thing is have a well-defined theme. Figure it out. Plan it deeply. And plan it with love. Plan it with care. Because time spent planning is never time wasted. So, to me, the best thing one could do when it comes to creating stuff like this, especially in our field, I don't want to say field of work, but in kind of our space, would be learn from what has been done, understand the rules, and break them with class. So, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? I mean, take what others have done, figure out why they work, and understand that every rule is reversible. Everything that works can be reversed, dissected, and deconstructed. If you can reverse something, well, you can create something that defies expectations and defies the rules. And to do that, like it or not, you're going to have to research. You're going to have to read. You're going to have to understand how a story works. Now, for our type of story, the one resource that I would recommend everybody to take a look at is this
the documentary Marley and Me.
Absolutely.
No, there's this YouTube video that I love. I forget the maker of it, but it's a YouTube documentary on Bloodborne, and it's this analysis of how Bloodborne deconstructs the human-centric myth. Most of the stories that we're familiar with have this, human-centered myth that Joseph Campbell talked about, of, man finding divinity within themselves. And Bloodborne does such a phenomenal job with, making it, like, putting it upside down, that it just disturbs you in a level that no other type of story can. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Sorry. I haven't saved so far, so if I die, that's game over. But yeah, it's just the idea of learning the rules so that you can break them. A lot of people that go to film school, get obsessed with learning the rules and learning how everything works, and then they follow them to the letter. And it's like, you will make an okay movie if you do that. Make no mistake. But if you want to make a masterpiece, if you want to make something that, defies expectations and changes the way media is consumed, you have to break rules. You have, and to break rules properly, you have to understand them on an intrinsic level. So research and study are the biggest and most important things you can have as a creator. Learning what has been done and how you can dissect those rules and make them work for you. That's what I would say.
That's solid advice. I would agree.
And plan ahead. It's one thing to have a really cool twist. It's another to have a twist that's like, there's
how to actually get there.
Exactly.
Get there to deliver the twist.
Yes, it's the moment of, like, you want people to be like, aha, of course, that makes complete sense, instead of, oh, come on, like, that doesn't make any sense. How was I supposed to figure that out?
It's like that.
I'll link a tweet that people, like, when strangers DM me asking for advice, the TLDR of it is outline everything, but I'll just link this tweet so it's there on the record. But yeah, like, outline everything, like Rod said. Do a lot of research. See what you like.
Yes, see what you like, put it all together, and figure out how they can work for you. Another thing that I would say is a nice way to think about what an effective twist is. I would recommend reading a Sherlock Holmes novel, any of them, any short story. God, I'm about to run out of ammo! Okay.
How about the one where Sherlock eats the puzzle piece and Watson has to take him to the man in the big yellow hat?
Don't. So, God damn it, Jeff. No, the one that I was going to say is just read any Sherlock Holmes short story and then watch the BBC Sherlock and notice the difference between them. And I'll tell them right now, the difference between one is that one, you can figure out the answer for yourself as you're going, and the other, it's like, well, how the fuck was I even supposed to figure that out? That's stupid. You will see them, it's night and day. Night and fucking day. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, give yourself a formula, or paint yourself into a corner that you have to work with. Like, Michael, very early on, you said a part of Soursalt was like the beginning, middle, end of these people having this experience. I think it was for Soursalt that you had the people there, the recording of the incident, and the after of the incident. How that can change, if you ever got stuck somewhere. I'm assuming you can go back and work with that 3-part structure. Right. Oh, you're boned, Rod.
I am fucked. I think that's game. That's gonna be game. I have no bullets. Ugh. I'm so sorry. Oh no, there's one over there. I had to turn that one on.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good timing, Rod. We're just about to hit the 2-hour mark. And
God damn it! Why do I always die? Why do I always die at the end of the show? Miss it! Miss it! Oh, he missed me! Okay, okay. I am losing my marbles. Is it over here? No, it's already connected. What am I? Okay, that's it. I'm dead.
Oh man, way to spoil it. I got like 5 seconds behind.
Yep. Sorry, Ada. This is where I die. Grab me by the head. Come on. Grab me by the head.
To you.
X, go give it to it. That's it. Okay, that is the end. God damn it. All right. So, okay, cool. I think that is the end.
Good timing. I fucking love that.
Perfect timing. So, couple of things before we go. Mike, do you have any projects that you're currently working on that we can plug here for everybody to see? Send it to me on DM and I'll make sure that everybody sees it.
I do. I forgot to grab the link. You know what I'm working on.
You know what I'm about, son.
You and I, we got some connectivity going.
Okay, so one of the things Mike is currently working on is the Recollect series, which crosses over with Monarchs 52. Really, really fun,
Spoiler.
really creative. It's super awesome. It's about hunting monsters, and they actually hunt monsters. It's not like Ghost Hunters where it's like, "Are you there?" and then you hear a knock and they go, "Oh, so your name is Jim." You know, it's like, let's hunt some monsters and kill some
Don't
monsters.
badmouth our boys at BuzzFeed Unsolved. Come on. Or Taps.
Hey demons.
The OGs.
Hey demons. It's me, your
Side
boy.
note, BuzzFeed Unsolved, Paranormal, and True Crime is all on Amazon Prime if you have it.
Ugh. Okay, Mike, do you have anything else that you're currently working on?
So I am working on a really strange Twitter story called the Abinet Report.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to get a link to it right now.
So that first link right there, they're coming back is it's the link for Recollect. So yeah, give me the next one, boy.
I think I found an ARG on Twitter recently. It's like somebody really calling out from help, and he seems like he's a trouble to himself and the people around him. It's at Real Donald Trump on Twitter. It's really fucked up.
Oh God. He lied his way into the presidency, and now the CIA is coming for him.
I was hyped. I was like, "Oh man, we got some."
Yeah, I was excited.
Now I have to write something because I feel a little bad, but
I'm for a good hell Twitter.
Oh, there it is. The Abinet Report. Sweet, cool. I'm gonna put
wow.
this in chat so that everybody can go check it out. But yeah, that concludes Pumpkin Emoji episode 2.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael, so much. This was a blast. And
Yeah.
Rod and I were talking about like making breaks and stuff in the show, but 2 hours just fucking blew by.
Right? I told you. Jay.
You're right. You're right. I was wrong.
Yep. One last thing before we go, Mike. I need you to choose one of the viewers.
Oh yes,
on
somebody
chat.
has to die.
Yes, you have to sacrifice one of the viewers to the Pumpkin King, the Pumpkin God. Sorry. Yeah. Otherwise, the Pumpkin God will kill everybody in the planet. It's a very like cabin in the woods situation.
Everybody, the Pumpkin King doles out 1 horror movie death per stream to be stated. Also, yeah, I do have one more thing, Rod. After that,
Sure.
choose, Michael.
You must.
I'm gonna have to go with Velvet Eye Gaming. I mean, Rowan and I had a deal.
Oh.
There we go.
There we go. All right, let me
just add us on Twitter so we can properly execute you.
I'm going to summon him. I'm going to summon him into my room. Give me a second. I'm about to do it. Oh, there he is. Let me grab my knife. Give me a second.
He just closes his eyes, sticks out his tongue, and starts vibrating.
Hold on. I don't think everybody could hear his scream. There it is.
So, Rod and I are obviously going to keep doing Pumpkin Emoji, so we'll talk about it until then. And I don't even think I got a chance to message Rod about this because I just saw it this afternoon. but a longtime viewer and friend of mine, every year around Halloween time, they do a charity stream. I believe it's called Extra Life Gaming.
Oh
Does
my
that sound
god.
familiar to anybody?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so I know people do their own teams and everything, but since I don't coordinate anything on my own, I usually just tend to latch onto theirs. So as we get closer to that date, I will share tweets about their extra gaming, campaign, so they can
Awesome.
hopefully raise some money. I believe it's all about, unfortunately, sick kids who are stuck in the hospital. It helps, lift their spirits and everything, and raises money for that sort of deal. So we'll talk about that after we talk about the atrocities we talk about on Pumpkin Emoji.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I will take any chance I have to help with charity, especially for sick kids.
Right on.
Cool. Awesome. We have killed our sacrifice for the night.
Yep.
And yeah, the pumpkin god is sated for a few more days. Should we reveal the next guest or should we wait?
We might as well, because we don't have a whole weekend to get hype.
Yes. So this coming Thursday, that is the 15th of October, prepare yourselves because Marn from ARGonauts or Argonauts is coming on the show. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. What are we going to talk about? I'll never tell.
I mean, Michael is a fucking well of ARG knowledge, but I think they might be bested by Marn. I'm not sure, because they have a whole encyclopedic podcast about ARG. So
Marnie is insanely
we'll see
good.
how it goes.
But yeah, stay tuned. We'll be back on Thursday the 15th at the same time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. And we'll see you then. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Dubai.
Bye.